right, welcome back to more fun at the Red Barn. And as you can see, there's something new behind me, and this is something new, and it is something special. This is a real live factory 914-6, 1971, that has been immaculately restored. Well, it's not restored, it's a bit of a hot rod, but I just want to take you around it. It's here because a buddy of mine who owns this car asked me to do some work on it, a couple of modifications he wants made. I'm terrified of having it in the shop because it is pretty much perfect. And boy, oh boy, I mean, look at the paint job. I mean, look, you can see the reflection of the Ferrari car. It's ridiculous. I don't even want to get near it. And it's got like a full-blown custom leather interior. Now, a bunch of it's out, and I'll tell you why in a second, but it's so it's so nice. Oh my God, it's so nice. It's nicer than anything that's ever been in my shop. And all the tools are like, what the hell is that? And I said to him, I said, this is what a 914 is supposed to look like. And you know, it's just, every little bit of it is just so cool. And let me show you, here's what it's here for. It is a factory 6, but the owner is never going to sell it, and he's a bit of a hot rodder, and he wanted to make it exactly how he wanted it. So it's things like the vertically mounted spare tire, you know, Fuchs refinished. I think these were done by Harvey Wiedemann, the preeminent Porsche wheel restoration guy. He's added, this was a 3.2. I said he's moving to a 3.6, and he was having not overheating problems, but at idle in traffic, this was getting a bit warm. So he's asked me to install some fans under this shroud, which is simple enough. You won't be able to see this probably, but the underneath of the car, the underneath of the trunk here is louvered for ventilation. And then he had this, the traditional 914-6 GT cutout done on his steel bumper, was replated, re-chromed, matching cutout down here, inlets for the, you know, air to go to the oil cooler. But man, oh man, this is just a beautiful car. That's the oil thermostat right there. So, as I mentioned, fans are going to get installed under here as a first step. And if that doesn't support the cooling needs of the 3.6, which, by the way, the oil cooler is the only oil cooler in the car, unlike the 3.2, which has an oil cooler as part of the motor. But if we need to do more modifications, we will potentially open up the grill a little bit more. And he also has a bigger oil cooler, and I might have to make him a new shroud, but that's going to be after we do some road testing on the current version. And then the reason that the interior is out of it is, those of you that know 914s know that the early cars have non-retractable seatbelts, and they're kind of a pain. And the owner of this car has asked that we put in retractable seatbelts. Now, the other thing that's unique to the early cars is, again, really detailed 914 information. When they moved to retractable seatbelts, they put the retractor here. And this car is shaped differently than the later model cars. The owner had said, hey, I'll get cutouts from a different car, and maybe you can just graft them in. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And the reason is, in order to do it correctly, the window has to come out. You end up having to section a piece out of here, removing spot welds from that piece of the firewall, and then grafting a whole new thing in. And you can see, you know, more beautiful reflection stuff. It's just too risky. And because he's never going to sell the car, he agreed that it would be okay if we used the same approach I used in my LS car. And that is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to locate the seatbelt retractor down here. And while you might think that would cause seat travel issues, it actually doesn't, because the seats, as you can see, the seats angle back into this pocket. And as they come down, there's actually enough clearance to get a retractor right about in here. Now, what you wouldn't notice necessarily is you can see there's a couple of stitch welds here. This car has had a longitudinal and interlongitudinal reinforcing kit put in it. So this is not just sheet metal back here. You can see it's got the factory sheet metal. And by the way, the firewall is double walled, so there's an outer firewall on the engine compartment side. This is the inner firewall, and then this stiffening panel, I think this is 16 gauge, that they put over it. So what I'm going to do is make like a 3/16 plate that's going to get stitched right into here with the pickup points for the seatbelt mount. And same thing on the other side. So that's going to be, I'm going to document this, so he's got everything for his whole build is documented, the whole restoration and all the other work that's been done on the car. So over the next few days, I hope to get his seatbelts mounted and get his fans taken care of. We're going to do some try to do some cool wiring for him as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started making the backer plate that's going to go down here for the seatbelt mount. It's got the fastener that'll be welded to the plate, hole drilled here, plate will be welded onto this. There's also a locating pin on the top of the retractor. But the cool thing is, if you look at the shape of this firewall, and if we wander over here to the Ferrari car, guess what? Same deal. Now, this has been reinforced, just this longitudinal, or both longitudinals, but this is what the factory firewall, inner firewall, looks like. You can see the difference. The factory 6 has got that sheet metal piece that's stitched right in here all the way across. This one does not have that yet. And the good news is, though, I need to make the same thing for this car. So I'm actually going to start off proving out the concept on this car, because I got a lot more, room to move, if you want to call it that. If I change a design, or I forgot to think something through, I'd rather make the mistake on this one than on this thing. Oh my God, so nervous. Here's a factory retractor, nothing fancy, but here's what's got to get accounted for. This is the mounting hole, and this is the locator pin that just keeps it tipping side to side, absolutely locates it vertically. So I'm just going to go ahead and get some measurements and make up a little CAD drawing for the plate I want to cut out as a starting point. And there is one backer plate and a quick example of a redo. So it's all the little things. I got all excited about measuring the distances, and what you can clearly see is that this side of the assembly is larger, and just because I felt like it, I decided to redo the piece so that it was more evenly spaced. If I just did it so that that was in the center, then it wasn't quite as nice looking. Not that it matters, but there you go. And I also added the plug weld holes, and then just went to the drill press and opened that up to the appropriate size. But now you can see what this thing does. That locates it, and then I'll weld a nut on the back side of this, and once this gets welded to that inner firewall, we'll have a retractor mount. We should be all set. And here they are with I knocked all the mill scale off of them, because this was hot rolled steel, so it comes with mill scale on it. But anyway, just hit that with the grinder and off it comes. And then I just tacked on, welded on the nuts, and here it is fit. And so you can see this is the vertical locator, or the clocking locator hole, and then the nut that holds it, or the bolt that holds it on right there. So now I just got to drill a clearance hole in the firewall, inner firewall, for that, and then this goes on. I've got my plug weld holes, and I can do a little bit of seam welding around the outside if I so choose. And there we go. So that's just a quick little knockout of that piece. And then if I show it to you in the Ferrari car, I actually realized that because this one does not have the rear-facing stiffener panel in it yet, I want to add that first. But this gives you an idea of what's going to happen, right? This will fit in approximately here with the hole drilled. And again, 914 folks will know I can't go lower than that on this side, because that is where the emergency brake cables pass through into the cabin. So this whole receiver has to sit slightly above that. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how far. You can see there's a little bit of a kick out in the wall. So ideally this will sit just as far outboard as it can, approximately like that, and as low as it can get without interfering with the emergency brake cables. And we'll have retractable seat belts in a 71 914-6. And then the surgery begins. First, it's to use a step drill and get the hole drilled so that the welded on nut has clearance. And you can tell by the little dots that I have there that I've already fit this, but then this fits, the backer plate fits right there. And then those black dots are simply the marks where I marked where I can now grind away to bare metal for the plug welds through this thing. And we'll be all set for that. I specifically want to make sure, as someone pointed out, don't spot weld up that hole, because that's the obviously the locator pin hole. So I'll tape that up when I go to do all this work. But there we go, drilling holes in perfectly painted 914-6s. Oh my God, nerve-wracking. But one plate almost ready to fit. A couple other things I want to point out before we get going on this. One is I pulled the seatbelt out of my LS car. This is from our friends at Seatbelt Planet. It's a slightly different shaped retractor. As you can see, there's the factory one and here's the aftermarket one. Nice piece of kit, happy with it. And in the case of what I did is I measured the distance that I moved the retractor, and I could go back and look at my records, but if memory serves, I added 14 inches of belt. I'm not sure that that's actually required. I just did it because I figured, why not? Standard length belt, make it the distance difference, and away we go. So the good news is, as I was post-drilling the hole, I thought, wait a second, what if this is bigger? Good news is, it looks like it's bigger, but overall this fits just fine down in here. So the owner has also ordered a set of these. He's going to be coming by in the next couple days and dropping those off, so we'll actually fit the real retractors that are going to go in the car rather than mocking up with mine or the factory ones. The other thing I want you to see here is another unique feature of the early cars, where the receiver, the seatbelt receiver, I don't know what this is called, the buckle, whatever you want to call it, this mounting point on the driver's side, notice its position, I don't know, 5 inches, 4.5 inches from the firewall. And if we run around the other side of the car, what you'll see is, but you'll notice that it's pre-cut for where the expected receiver mount hole for this side would be. And on the early cars, they had a non-movable passenger seat. And here's a picture of what that interior looks like in an early car. Now, this owner has added the adjustable seat setup to modernize the interior. Again, it's not trying to be a restoration. It's exactly the car he wants, and he wanted the adjustable seat, symmetrical look and all that good stuff. But in talking with him, I said, hey, you got a couple options. You could either order a slightly longer receiver piece and keep this mount, or we can move the mount and put a threaded boss in the tunnel here. So he's coming in the next couple days, and we're going to work out exactly what he wants to do about this. And this may be another minor mod that we do if he so desires. So that's all we're going to cover for this episode. Gives you an idea of what we're up to. And then next time around, we'll get all this stuff welded in and go to work on adding the fans under the oil cooler shroud and all that good stuff. So there it is, a slightly different kind of a project, working on a finished car than some of the other things that we've been up to here at the Red Barn. But I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.